In today's video, we're going to be going over a setup that could fire off as soon as later today, which would give forwards price probabilities as well as timing probabilities for the next move to come, as well as the major number, the critical number that bulls must, well, hold above, which they have been holding above. That does indicate that continuation is more likely than not, than a reversal in this case. So without further ado, we'll start things off right on over here.
The time is now to activate the light code frequencies within your DNA that will ignite the flow of abundance.
And with that said, we're going to be getting into some actual face charts right in over here. First things first, as always, I want to be looking at the daily statistics. And in this case, we're just looking at the time measured from the beginning of this year till current, basically. And we can see that Saturdays have actually been one of the more likely to close positively days here, with 55% of all Saturdays since the beginning of 2024 closing positively from open to close, with an average return very, very small here of actually just under 1%. And in the times that it has lost an average of about 1.5%. The reason why I bring this one up right now for that date specified is that yesterday, Friday's statistics did play out pretty much perfectly within that range, finding the range low at exactly the average loss low and actually closing around the average gain as well. So does Saturday play within the same context of those statistics? Perhaps yes. And in this case, we can come up with an overall range, which I suspect that Saturday is probably going to be boring, which actually plays in more importantly to the last part of this analysis regarding setups. But about 1% to the upside will put Bitcoin basically back around yesterday's high. And if we were to see about 1.5% to the downside shaved off, that would put Bitcoin somewhere around 67,500. So likely the range for today. I do expect things to get, more or less boring into this weekend, and the real markets do begin back on Monday, which, by the way, Monday does have the highest probability since the beginning of 2024 to close positively, at just over 71%, actually close to 71.5%, with a pretty crazy average return there too. So I would keep an eye on that, because obviously the longer that Bitcoin basically holds here, as we'll go over in the next chart, the more and more likely that upside does begin to occur. But today and tomorrow are going to be very, very telling. If we are going to see a reversal, we likely actually do see it begin between today and Sunday. Anyways, going on over here to the 5-day time frame, we can see that the 5-day obviously closed last night on spot price action and did close above the median. So intraday yesterday, when we recorded this video, it was still below the median. It was looking more like a rejection. At the end of the day, Bitcoin did reclaim. So that does keep the Bulaw's hopes alive for more immediate continuation than not. That does imply that any sort of a closure below this region, which is 67,700, would be indicative that we do have that reversal that likely brings Bitcoin back down to the to these range lows here. I would hazard a guess somewhere between like 63 to 64,000 bucks before like a legitimate bounce attempt. Anyways, to define bounce attempt, by the way, as well, just because I've seen some like very interesting comments about this. Bounce does not imply reversal or anything like that. That needs to be obviously analyzed or like seen, after the actual fact. Just implies that that's an area, like kind of like a sticky area. You can probably trade a little bit of a scalp bounce at minimum. Anyways, yes, so that's the big level to be aware of coming into this next 4 or 5 days worth of price action. Going over here to the daily time frame, daily range actually correlates incredibly well with the statistics that we just looked at. In fact, the 38.2 level here, both the upside and the downside, probably encompassing the more important range for the daily. With Bitcoin closing below 66,000 bucks, I still do believe if you're looking at a daily time frame rather than a 5-day, that's probably your cause for concern for Bitcoin likely coming back down to the lower 60s. But as long as Bitcoin's above there, Bulaw still have the ball in their court. Yeah, things do look a little bit weaker up here as of right now. But my personal rules with the system that I kind of look at is that as long as this condition is met over here, it shouldn't really be positioning for that, just personally speaking. So that would imply more continuation or continuation sooner rather than later is more likely. Of course, because we get that 5-day time frame, we do have a new tick over here on the 5-day stochastic oscillator. And as we can see, the pivot has actually moved down now. It's moved down all the way to 65,750. So what does that essentially imply? I mean, it's kind of that same $66,000 number. I'd say in this case, close enough to it. As long as Bitcoin's above The Bullahs have the ball in their court, and as long as Bitcoin is above the median right here at 67,750, it's likely for more immediate continuation than not. But if Bitcoin starts to, lose these numbers, I would even say a daily closure below 66 or just below 66, yeah, you're very likely to see a move back down to the low side of the range. But for right now, this setup still favors long-term upside. That's the main message that I really want to be having. The question is the timing of this, and that is what we can use this particular setup over here to potentially gauge. So I need to get rid of this damn code because that's not going to be the code for the next sale, which, by the way, starts Monday of this coming week. We're going to be offering a nice little discount for all of our services, but namely the Krown Quant, which is my favorite thing. Anyways, okay, yeah, need to refocus back in on this one. So this was a setup that we spoke about yesterday as likely being a good indication of timing the next move. This setup, a relatively simple setup, is just based off of the Krown VMP indicator down here. We want to see it get below 10 percentile or more. In this case, we do see it at 5 percentile for this current period. And once that happens, plus an uptrend on this time frame, the 12-hour and the 3-day time frame, which both of these conditions are currently met, it will fire off an entry. And basically, since this run started in beginning of 2023, you can see this particular setup has been really, really good at timing the upside moves. So we can see, long term, it does have more or less a wash in terms of hit rate at just under 55%. But in general upside markets, obviously that's going to help things out. And so we would expect probably a little more to than that particular percentage to be frank. But going back into it right here and looking at our current trajectory, this will fire off an entry later today, or not later today, but in 5 hours and 1 minute and 38 seconds, assuming that things don't get super crazy between now and that time. If they don't, it'll fire off an entry right here. Again, doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't, come down a little bit. This one does have, I believe, an average loss somewhere around 8%. But if we go into the strategy tester right here and blow up the performance summary and get rid of my face as well, so you can actually see, well, the average winning trade is just under 15%. So, when you have about a 55% strike rate and your average winning trade is close to double your average losing trade, that's going to be a winning setup long term. And the average amount of bars in winning trades is 14. So 14 bars on a 12-hour time frame is 7 days. So we're basically looking at likely the next 7 days of price action, more likely to trade to the upside than not. And I believe in this case, let's just assume, which maybe is not the best idea, when you assume you make an ass out of you and me, but let's just assume that, the 12-hour close is somewhere around here. 15% puts you on new all-time highs, actually. If it were to, reach that, that would be, around 77 to 78,000 bucks. So that would be new all-time highs. That would very much play in alignment with several of the other setups that we've been discussing on this channel, which I won't go over in today's video, just for the sake of brevity. But yeah, do be aware of that, because if this one does fire off, all these moving parts ultimately should be working together, and that would imply that, within this next couple of weeks, we do see, probably new highs on Bitcoin, and probably an attempt towards 80,000 bucks. So yeah, that's in the cards right there. And again, the average amount of time on the winning trades was 7 days. I think the average amount of time in the losing trades was a little bit less than that. So just blowing it back up on over here, and I feel like I'm missing something right now. But of course, it's a long time left to go, 5 hours, a lot can happen right there. But we'll see, we'll see in tomorrow's video if it did indeed fire off or not. If it didn't, then, well, what are you going to do? What can you do? It is what it is, but we'll check back in tomorrow and see what the results are. Anyways, from there, I think that's actually probably a good place to leave off on this particular video. We went over, to answer the question of this video, the major important region for potential reversal that is on a daily closing basis just below 66,000 bucks. It's called like 65,800. On a 5-day time frame, it would be about 67,700 or 67,800. And then we went over this particular setup over here, which could fire off later today. So this is gonna be the big one to check back in on tomorrow's video. I do believe that if this one does fire off, we're very likely to see Bitcoin kind of dig in a weird looking higher low here and try again to the upside. But again, below 66-ish, I would be expecting a greater correction, probably back down to the low 60s with stops along the way, somewhere around like 63 or 64. Yeah, okay. That's going to do it for today. I should let you know that MetaSignals is still doing their 14 days free trial if you want to check out their spoon feeding signal service. Just fucking open up your mouth like that helpless bird and get your worms fed to you in the early mornings. But yeah, you can check it out for free. Of course, there is a link in the description below, and decide if it's for you or not for you. I think that's the best way to market a service like that is you get to try it out free. If you like it, go ahead. If you don't like it, don't go ahead. No, nothing lost in that case. All right. With all of that said, again, we kind of alluded to it earlier, but we'll be having a sale at the beginning of this coming week, Monday, for Memorial Day week. So if you're considering any one of the programs or products here, maybe just wait a couple days. You'll save yourself a few bucks. And yeah. All right. That's going to do it for me. As always, I want to wish you the best bets. Take care. Much love. And see you hopefully in abundance.